unbelievable. The impossible has happened.
A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win!
You know what time it is.
The most amazing, sensational, dramatic.
Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection. Holy cow! Oh my God!
I don't believe it. It just continues. Oh my.
You believe in miracles?
Do you know what time it is?
I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
Welcome back into another episode of the Sports Hour. This is Mitch-Mo.
And this is Dallen. Guys, welcome into the podcast. It is so good to be here. We are live as always. It is Wednesday, January 18th. A beautiful day, Mitch, and we have a jam-packed podcast ahead of us. The NFL playoffs are, man, it's getting hot and heavy right now. I'll tell you that. I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah.
Super Wildcard Weekend was awesome. We are going to start off with a recap of that. We'll get into Divisional Round preview at the end of it. And then sandwiched in between there on the podcast today, we have another draft for the folks, Mitch, and this one's going to be a good one.
I think we're gonna make some people mad. I think we might make a couple be mad, and I'm looking forward to that. Bring it on! I want to hear it.
You're gonna make me mad. I already know.
Oh
Yeah,
no!
you can tell the people now, Mitch. Tell the people what we're doing for the draft at the midpoint of the podcast.
So we're gonna be drafting our best quarterbacks of all time. I'm saying best because maybe greatness, usually associated with winning, maybe isn't necessarily the most important criteria when talking about the best quarterbacks of all time. I'm sure we'll get into that debate when we get there, but it's going to be a doozy of a draft.
Love that.
I got to give you credit for bringing this one up because this was your brainchild. So I will give you credit there. It should be a really, really fun one. I love this draft segment that we've been doing.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I love the competition back and forth, and I also love that you're already laying in caveats for your selections later on in the draft. So I love that you're laying that in right at the beginning of the podcast so that everyone knows when we get there, you've laid the groundwork for yourself. So well done there, Mitch. Again, as I mentioned, we're live on the YouTube, on the Twitter. If you're watching, hello, tell us hello in the comments. If you're tuning in tonight, if you have anything to say about what we're talking about or any opinions on our thoughts, let us know below in the comments. If you're listening to the podcast later on, hello from the past. Yeah. And
hello to the future.
Hello to the future. I guess that's kind of cool. Crazy to think about. But yeah, good to be here, man. I'm so excited for this. The NFL playoffs are like the best time of year. The wild card weekend's awesome. The expanded playoff has made it so much better. So
it's like Christmas never ended with the football playoffs. It's just like we get Christmas through February now because we just get gifts of great football for the next 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Facts.
And it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah.
It's really the end of the holiday season, ends in February after the Super Bowl. So
you're not wrong, Mitch. And to your point, Santa and Santa's little helper are still in the playoffs. So they're holding on to the Christmas spirit over there in the Big Apple as well with the Giants.
That's right.
So Brian Dable and Wake Martindale holding it down. We'll get to them here in a little bit. So yeah, no more ado, Mitch. I think we need to we're start with the wild card recap, but we do have to start off the podcast as we always do. And of course, that's with the news.
That's right. Let's get into the news and notes around the world of sports. Let's get into the news! Man, I growled a little bit there. I didn't mean to get that growly.
Ooh.
It's like a little bear. Oh. I'm in a weird mood today, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in a weird mood.
I kind of feel the same way, Mitch. It's Weird Wednesday. That's what we're about today.
Right.
Wildcard weekend. Let's start off just a recap of what happened over the 3 days, 6 games. Honestly, every game, most of these games were really, really good. Apart from the first game and the last game. And let's start with that first game, Mitch. San Francisco and Seattle, number 7 seed. Seahawks, number 2 seed, San Francisco, and the Niners took care of business 41-23. Now, Seattle did lead this game at halftime. It was 17-16 at half, and Seattle was, doing enough to stay in the game and show some fight. You thought, all right, yeah, Seattle, they're not just going to turn over, but man, the Niners really put it on in the second half. 25-6, they outscored the Seahawks in the second half. The offense just relentless. Brock Purdy with 4 touchdowns in his debut in the playoff, 4 touchdowns, including 3 passing in his playoff debut. So Niners won as we expected, but man, to see him pull away like that, it just reminds you of how talented and impressive this team really is.
I mean, it's incredible what stable quarterback play will do for this team. When you just get a stable guy under center, it like literally the sky's the limit for this team. They Brocked and rolled all night and Purdy'd every day with Brock Purdy under center. I love that pun. I'm going to stick with that pun. I think until they're not in this thing anymore. But 18 for 30, 332, and 3 through the air. Like you said, 3 through the air. He had the one on the ground as well. What I think I loved most about Brock Purdy's performance is not necessarily the numbers, the big playability, but watching him show the ability to improvise. Very Russell Wilson and Seattle-esque. His ability to make something out of nothing is really, really fun to watch. And I think we need more quarterbacks like that. You get the Lamar Jacksons where you kind of expect them to run the ball 50% of the time, and improvisation is not necessarily their strong suit. They just have really good legs and they use them. Brock Purdy finds a way to make things happen, even though he lacks that little bit of athletic ability, that athletic advantage that Lamar Jackson has. So really, really fun performance for him. Christian McCaffrey was fantastic on the ground as well through the air. Caught also was 2 for 17 with the touchdown. So, just an all around dominating performance. Maybe the first half doesn't write that story, but the second half surely did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Mitch, to your point, I think what you spoke on about Brock Purdy is the difference that Purdy brings as opposed to Jimmy Garoppolo. And there are a lot of similarities, right? Because Jimmy Garoppolo at his peak brought this team to a Super Bowl. And, they didn't ask him to do that much. And, but I think one of those biggest differences is, you can make the plays, you could get the ball out to the playmakers, and they make those plays, and that's what this Niners offense is all about. I mean, they've got a freaking Warriors death lineup out there. I mean, just think about it. I mean, you've got Samuel, you've got Ayuk, you've got Kittle, you've got McCaffrey, and you've got Juszczyk as the 5th best option, just to throw in there.
Elijah Mitchell.
I mean,
Jawan
and that's
Jennings.
just
they all
right. Those are just the 5, but so it's very easy to have success if you could get those guys the ball and do what you need to do. And Purdy does that well. But what he has shown to add to this Niners offense is that ability to just extend the plays a little bit longer, improvise a little bit, and make a play. And that's something we saw Jimmy Garoppolo failed to do. It's part of the reason why they looked to add at the quarterback position after that Super Bowl loss, because they knew they needed somebody that could bring a level of dynamism. Now, is Purdy that long-term? I mean, that's conversation for another day. Right now, we'll focus on the playoffs and the success that they're having. And certainly seems like they should be one of, if not the favorite in the NFC with how this team is playing. Very excited to see their divisional round matchup, and we'll get to that at the end of the podcast. Any thoughts on the Seahawks in this performance here? Obviously, a tough way to go. We didn't expect them to even be in this place at the beginning of the season, so I don't think this is anything negative to take away for Seattle per se, but anything you wanted to share here?
No, I think that this is probably as good as it was going to get for Seattle, barring a miracle. I mean, I think they probably had a snowball's chance in hell as getting by the Niners with how red hot they were how well Brock Purdy was playing, how good the defense has been all year long. It really was going to be a tough road for them to even think about getting into the divisional round, whether they played San Francisco or not. So, it was a great run for him. Like you said, we didn't expect him to be here. Geno Smith, personally for me, is my comeback player of the year. He had a fantastic season, nothing to hang his head about. And I think that, unfortunately, this may be the career year for Geno Smith, because as we look forward to the NFL draft, is Geno Smith's job safe? Are they going to go out and get a quarterback? Is there going to be some competition at that position for Seattle? So a great year, given the circumstances of what the Seahawks went through last offseason. But this was really about as far as I could have ever thought they were going to get.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wanted to shout out DK Metcalf for a great playoff performance, 10 catches, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was up for the task today. And I mean, this Seahawks team, like you said, showed a lot of promise this year. And you know, it seems like an intention to bring back Geno Smith. If that is the case, you feel really confident that they could just add on defense and, you know, be right back in here in the playoffs and maybe even more competitive next year. So things going really well in Seattle. And, you know, again, just this is all icing on the cake. The playoffs, you know, just getting here was a big win for Seattle. You know, losing this game is what it is. So, Mitch, the other Saturday night game, though, this was probably the best game of the weekend. And it looked like it going into it. Jacksonville and the Chargers in the swamps of Jacksonville. And man, we were in for a treat. It didn't look like it in the first half, though. At one point in the second quarter, the Chargers led 27-0. But those pesky Jags, they didn't give up, Mitch. Trailed 27-7 at half. They come back to win this thing 31-30. I have a few thoughts on this. I'll let you go first here with your thoughts on this game and the historic collapse by the Chargers and the historic comeback by the Jaguars.
Third largest comeback in NFL playoff history, 27 points. Duval showed out. Duval stuck with them. Duval got themselves a dub. And I don't think that this is so much something to look forward to with Jacksonville. I think that they have a lot of really great young talent, but I don't think that this is, what I'm taking away from this is not that Jacksonville put together this great comeback. For me, it's LA's collapse. I mean, they had Trevor Lawrence's number in that first half. Threw 4 picks. At one point, Asante Samuel, I think it was halfway through the second quarter, had more receptions than the entire Jaguars receiving core. Like this was their game to lose. And the collapse is just, again, like I've said at the beginning of the year in our way too early, like I said in our preseason predictions, the Chargers once again let all the people down that were optimistic about the Chargers. And I'm done with the Chargers. I know they made the playoffs. I'm done with the Chargers. Done with them. They're going to have to show something to me now, because you don't blow a 27-0 lead in the playoffs and expect to be held in high regards and have high expectations this year. You just don't. No matter how talented your roster is, Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert and Mike Williams and all these guys, it doesn't matter anymore. On the Jaguars side of things, Trevor Lawrence might be our generation's Brett Favre. And by that, I mean, he's going to have some gaudy numbers, but he's going to have some really gaudy bad numbers. Like, he might just be one of those guys. It's like, oh yeah, he threw for 4 touchdowns today. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions, but he threw for 4 tuds. And that's kind of the way Brett Favre played. And I think we might be looking at something like that with Trevor Lawrence. Not necessarily the gunslinger improvisation type stuff that you saw from Favre, but you know, the decision-making still needs to be sharpened up with Trevor Lawrence, and he pulled it together and orchestrated a great comeback. It was a very exciting game. I'm glad we got it.
His resilience was one of the most impressive things. I mean, your first career playoff start, pressure's on your shoulders, and you start off the game with 4 picks right? I mean, anybody would have shrunk in that moment, and it would have been understandable if they would have just shriveled and died, right? But he didn't. He could have, and he did not. He rallied that team and stayed in it. And those last 5 offensive drives for Jacksonville, Mitch, they scored 31 points. They scored on all 5 of those drives, 4 touchdowns, and then the game-winning field goal on that final offensive drive. And that is, to me, the biggest story of this game, is that Jacksonville did not give up. Trevor Lawrence didn't give up. They stuck to that game plan, and credit to Doug Peterson and that staff. Credit to the culture that he built in Jacksonville in a single year. Because remember how dysfunctional this franchise was. A year ago, they had the number 1 pick. They had back-to-back number 1 picks. Urban Meyer had girls grinding on him at bars, right? I mean, this was a mess. It was an absolute dumpster fire. The fact that they're even halfway competent is a miracle. The fact that they're winning playoff games after trailing in this deficit with a second-year quarterback in his first playoff start, and all of this is just unprecedented. So, I mean, that goes a huge credit to Doug Peterson there on that and this Jacksonville team. And, you know, I don't know. I look at, you know, I think what was a reminder this week, Mitch, and I'll discuss this as we get into a couple of these other games, but I love the NFL playoffs because the talent on the field, these teams are so even, right? But it always comes down to just a handful of plays. Every game, handful of plays. You could pick out a handful of plays from every game, and you're like, this is what decided it. They go a different way. Game's a whole different thing. This game came down to 2 things for me. 1, Dicker the kicker. Love him. Great nickname, Dicker the kicker. But you missed that field goal with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, a chance to make it a 13-point game. He misses that field goal, keeps it 30-20 30-20 LA. Jacksonville scores in 3 minutes. They score touchdown. They go for 2. Another huge play right there. That's the Joey Bosa penalty where he slams his helmet. Just a stupid thing. I don't know what the hell he's thinking there. Cost his team a point there. Jacksonville goes for 2, gets it. Now sets him up to hit the game-winning field goal at the end of the game. If he makes that field goal right, now we're discussing touchdown situations. That it's a whole different game, right? And then finally, the 4th and 1 play. The 4th and 1 play on that final drive, the guts and the gall to not just go for it on 4th and 1 there, but not to sneak it up the middle like we see, not to do the QB push from behind, all those goal line. No, you bounce it outside with ETN. The way that's blocked up, you get him one-on-one with a corner. And you're saying Travis Etienne against your corner, we'll take that 100% of the time. And it worked. It worked perfectly. So just, I mean, those two moments made the difference in this game, and credit to Jacksonville for pulling off an incredible comeback.
Oh my gosh. It was incredible.
Great. That's why we love the playoffs. That's why we love
That's why we love it.
You know,
I mean, how about the comebacks we've had in the last few weeks? We had a record-setting comeback. I guess that was more than a few weeks ago, but you know, and then we have this one. My goodness, what a year this has been so far. And we still got more to go. I love it. I love it.
So, Sunday. We'll jump into Sunday now. Miami in Buffalo. This was Sunday, first game on Sunday. AFC East matchup. The Bills get it done 34-31. Bills were favored heavy in this game, large part due to Skylar Thompson, 7th round pick. Former 7th round pick out of Kansas State, getting the start for Miami. No Tua Tagovailoa. And man, a lot of credit has to go to Miami for sticking in this game. Much like, you know, we were talking about with the Jags, they couldn't pull off the win, but they didn't give up. I think that goes, I was very impressed with Mike McDaniel in this game, Mitch. I think that's what impressed me because Miami was so good for the beginning part of this season. And then the Tua injury happened and things really fell apart. And it's not just that Tua was injured. There are more factors to that. And coaching probably has some to blame to that. But they still got in the playoffs. They fought. They got in. And then they put up a valiant performance in this game with a 3rd-string quarterback. And that goes to the coaching staff and the culture. Mike McDaniel doing a great job in his first year there in Miami. But they can't get it done despite a lot of turnovers from Josh Allen. He was trying to keep them in this game, and Miami was hanging on as a result. They scored on a lot of those turnovers that kept Miami in this game. If Josh Allen doesn't have as many, and some of them were fluky, right? There were some fluky ones in there, but I mean, we talked about this We've talked about this before in the podcast. The turnovers have been an issue for him this year, and it's not just interceptions either. It's fumbles. It's been the one bugaboo about the Bills and about Josh Allen this year. It's like, and here it was in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, they win this game, but a couple things go differently. They lose this, and you're looking at it like that's the blame. So, not that they got lucky here. They certainly earned this win. They were a better team than Miami, and down the stretch, I think they proved it in this game. But hopefully, I guess if you're Buffalo and Josh Allen, you got it out of your system this week, and you're not seeing that type of frivolousness with the ball and looseness against Cincinnati.
Yeah, you got to be better. You got to be better with the football. And I have to bring this up because this is something I bring up with the Bills. I feel like every time we talk about them is they have to establish a run game. They have to. And they didn't do it again this week. Yep. I mean, Devin Singletary was 10 for 48. He was their leading rusher. If you don't have a run game, Josh Allen is forced to throw the ball more. And then if Josh Allen is forced to throw the ball more in 3rd and long situations because you haven't established a run game, now you're putting them in more risk-taking situations, and that's where the turnovers happen. They have to be able to establish the run game. And as much as I think the Bills are a team of destiny this year, like this just feels like their year. Damn, as though they got the win, it seems like a very disappointing win to me. Like this should not have been a 3-point game. Skylar Thompson was god-awful, right? 18 for 45.
Yeah.
220 and 2 picks. I mean, that should scream 34-14.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here we are looking at a 3-point game. And it's like, man, if you just keep your own quarterback out of situations where he doesn't have to turn the ball over, you're winning this game by 2 or 3 scores. And it's very, very simple. Just establish the run game.
You bring that up as a great point. I'm looking at these team stats. I mean, Miami's 4 of 16 on 3rd down. They have 231 total yards in the game. They only ran for 42 yards on 20 attempts. They had 7 penalties, and they lost this game by 3 points. You know what I mean? It's like you look at these numbers, like you said, Buffalo should have won this game by 3 touchdowns. So again, perhaps it's good you got it out of the way against Miami. It's not. You're not going to get away with it against Cincinnati next week. You're not getting away with it against the Bengals. They will beat you, and they'll beat you handily. You put up that kind of performance. So we'll see how they bounce back against Cincinnati, but certainly something to monitor as far as it goes for Buffalo, Mitch. Let's jump over to the next game here, an NFC matchup, Giants and Vikings. Giants pulling off the win in Minneapolis. The wild card team getting it done 31-24. You know, this Giants team, man. This Giants team just getting it done when it matters, and extremely impressive to see them do it here against a 13-win Minnesota team. And I think it's the offense, Mitch. This was a top 10 offense at DVOA this season. And here they are in the playoffs, and they continue to do it. Now, Minnesota's defense isn't too impressive, but still, to see them get this win, to see them perform at a high level, they didn't fluke their way into this. You know, it wasn't some ugly game that they just sort of managed to get a win in this. They beat the Vikings, and they beat them well, and I'm very impressed with this Giants team.
Yeah, absolutely. Very impressed with this Giants team. I think some connection issues here, so I'll just continue with this Giants Vikings conversation. Look, the Giants, man, they put together again another great game that again we don't expect much like in the same vein as the Seattle Seahawks. We don't expect the Giants to be doing the same types of things. Another team that we had at 4 or 5 wins at the beginning of the year, and here they are getting themselves into playoff position, and they're beating a 13-win Minnesota Vikings. Daniel Jones played exceptionally well. He also ran the ball very, very well. I mean, this guy was a workhorse, 17 for 78 on the ground. Guy was an absolute workhorse. It's one of those situations where I just credit to Brian Dable and Wink Martindale, Santa and Santa's little helper, getting it done in the playoffs against a team that in Minnesota where, damn it, they were frauds. They were frauds. And we knew it the whole damn time. I'll tell you that right now. We knew it the whole damn time that Minnesota was not real. So, you know, it's a tough one for me because I feel like that though New York puts together a good quality win against Minnesota, it doesn't feel as quality because, you know, Minnesota was fraud. They were frauds the entire year.
Yeah, you know, it is. I think you bring up a good point. It is kind of hard to sort of judge, like, what do we really know about this Giants team now? Because Minnesota isn't that impressive. You know, the offense is good, and the offense was good in this game. I thought Minnesota's offense did fine. TJ Hawkinson, I think he really showed the value of his trade, why you make that move when you need somebody else outside of Justin Jefferson. Who can you go to? He was so big on third down. I think 80% of his catches converted first downs, and they came on third or fourth down. So he was coming up big time and time again for Minnesota. But this defense has been bad and was bad all season. They got away with it, but the flaws were always there, as you said, and they were evident in this game. So I think what it gives Minnesota moving forward, at least this offseason, is a vision of what you need to correct. Yeah, you know, the corrections are clear. You need to get talented on defense. You need to get younger. You need all levels need to improve. I mean, it's just as simple as that. So at least you have that. At least you know the offense is good. And I mean, they were negative point differential this year. So yeah, I mean, for a 13-win team, they were always kind of sus. And here they are losing in the first round to a good wild card team. Nothing to, you know, no disrespect to the Giants, but you know, kind of a weird game in general.
Exceptionally weird. I don't feel like there was. It's one of those weird ones where, like, I don't feel like there was really a winner out of this game. Like, it just feels like the Giants played really well, but like the Vikings were the better team, but they also weren't at the same time. It's just it just feels weird to me. Good for Brian Daboll, Wink Martindale, and the New York Giants, but a weird one in Minnesota this week.
Absolutely. Final Sunday game, Mitch, Sunday night, AFC North matchup, Bengals and Ravens. Cincinnati gets this one done 24-17 against Tyler Huntley, the backup quarterback for the Ravens. No Lamar Jackson with the PCL injury, and Ravens weren't able to get it done in this one. No surprise. I mean, again, you know, you have the defending AFC champs from last year in Cincinnati, a Bengals team that's so banged up, and at the quarterback position, especially right now, it's just not good. So, you know, didn't expect them necessarily to win this, but I thought Baltimore had an admirable effort. The defense certainly showed out, and that's what carried this team down the stretch in particular, how good this talented defense is. And they certainly kept that up in this game against a good Cincinnati offense. I thought Tyler Huntley played fine, but I didn't think he was great, you know, but I thought he was fine. But again, much as we've talked about, it's a handful of moments, right? That goal line, you know, jump in for the goal line from 1.5 yards out when you're 5'11", 195 pounds like Tyler Huntley. It just makes no sense. And then for that fumble to flip the game, the Cincinnati Bengals take that 99 yards for a touchdown, and there's the game, right? That one play changed everything. Baltimore had him on the ropes seemingly, and then it switched on that play. And, you know, that's just what it comes down to in moments like this in the playoffs. It's a handful of big plays that need to go your way, and Cincinnati had them going their way in this game, that's for sure.
I mean, really exciting game there at the end. Loved the Sam Hubbard play. Love to see a big guy take a ball that far into the end zone. Let me ask you, though, Dallen, was that a block in the back?
Ooh. Okay, remind me the play.
It was the Sam Hubbard fumble recovery. They're about 25 yards out from him being in the end zone.
Yes.
I'm going to say no, because the first engagement was from the side, which kind of wipes that clean. It's kind of that gray area as far as the rule goes. I'm going to say no, because there was a clear attempt to disengage from the block in the back. But at the same time, it's a gray area. I think we need to mop up a little bit because I know there's a lot of fans from the Baltimore side that are saying there's no way that should have been, that should have counted. That was clearly blocking the back. Of course, Cincinnati fans are going, no, I wasn't blocking the back.
Right.
He engaged from the side. It's fine. It's fine. So I think that we need to look at that rule a little bit more now. And this is a rule that I'm okay with looking at. I think that we should let the guys play, but this is a rule that clearly changed the momentum of the game. And it's in crunch time. I mean, that was the winning score is what it wound up being. And I think it's maybe time we look at that rule and clean it up a little bit. But I'm going to say no as far as the block in the back. But I wanted to get your thoughts a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, too, because I just think you can't call that back in that situation in a playoff game. Like when it's that gray area, as you mentioned, you just don't make that call. You don't make the game about you. You stick your flag in your pocket and you move on. And I think that's probably the right, sort of way to handle that. But
that's like calling a guy safe on first with 2 outs in the middle of at the end of a perfect game.
Right.
You just on a close play, even if he was safe, you just don't make that call.
Yep. Yeah, you don't make it about you. You just let the game happen. So yeah, no, I that's a tough one. But I mean, the game doesn't just come down to that because ultimately the Ravens had a shot at the end of this game to at least try to tie this thing. They're driving down the field. They had plenty of time, but clock management issues, and that is not only on Tyler Huntley. That is not only on the backup quarterback. That is on the coaching staff to get this right, to get the guy to play, to make him speed up, to manage your clock properly. They absolutely fumbled the bag at the end of there. They could have had 4 extra plays, and they didn't. And I mean, they fall short. Who knows if they score on those, but missed opportunities for Baltimore in this, but Bengals move on, sets up a great matchup against Buffalo next week. On I guess this weekend, and that'll be, we'll talk about it later, but that's a great one. That's one of the best.
Oh, yeah.
Monday night, Mitch, the final playoff game, Dallas beating Tampa Bay here, 31-14. Tom Brady going out in the playoffs here. This was an ugly game. Like the Seahawks-Niners game ended up being more of a blowout right at the end of it, but the first half was super competitive. This game was never competitive at all. It was 18-0 at halftime, 31-14, like I said, at the final score. Dallas pretty much dominates Tampa Bay in this one on offense and defense. Impressive for a Cowboys team that really didn't look impressive down the stretch, I thought. And I picked Tampa Bay in this one. I didn't think the Cowboys would show up enough to win this. And they looked pretty dominant. So I don't know, Dak had a huge game. Probably one of his best games of his career. Is this great timing for Dallas, momentum they need to move forward and make a run? Or is this just a matchup against not a very good team?
Yes. Okay. It's both. I don't think Tampa Bay is that good. But I also think that this is the momentum Dallas needs because what do we know about Dallas since the year 1995? We're almost talking 30 years. What can go wrong will go wrong for the Dallas Cowboys. They just always find a way. And when you think they've found every way to lose, they find another way. And now they've found a way to win. They go out, they beat Tom Brady, they beat the Buccaneers. Now, granted, a bad team, okay? I don't think Tampa Bay is even a mediocre team. I think they are a product of being in the NFC South. However, Dallas needed this to build a little bit of momentum. They need this going in to who do they even got next week?
They got the
Philly,
Niners.
Right?
No,
they got the
San
Niners.
Francisco.
That's right. We get a Cowboys-Niners matchup. They need that going into San Francisco because, man, if they eke one out over Tampa Bay, let's say they win this one 31-28. Man, San Francisco's a really tough place to go when you just eke one out over probably the worst team in a playoff scenario. That's a tough pill tough thing to follow. So a dominating win for the Cowboys, good momentum builder for them. because they need all that they can get going into San Francisco next week.
Yeah, it's a good point, and they should be feeling confident, Mitch, and especially on offense. And I think that's what's most important about this game for Dallas and Dax specifically. 5 touchdowns in this game, 4 through the air, 1 on the ground, and you're going to come up against a very tough Niners defense who is uber confident and uber, just passionate and just flies to the ball and makes plays. That's what they do. So you got to bring your A game, and you got to bring and match that confidence and that energy level. And perhaps this performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers gives them that confidence to do that against the Niners. We shall see. But ultimately, Dallas getting it done means 3 NFC East teams into the divisional round of the NFC playoffs. Pretty impressive for that division to have 3 of the 4 remaining teams left. And we'll get to those matchups at the end of the podcast. Excited to break down those games, though. Those will be fun.
Yes, absolutely.
Mitch, to continue our news segment, and we must continue our news segment, we've got to do the weekly Kraken update. And the boys in Seattle are continuing to have a stellar season. We've hit a bit of a bump here, not too much, but last week we talked about a 6-game win streak. We were rolling, everything flying high. I hadn't lost since 2022. Well, the win streak's over. 8 games is where it ended at. Very impressive for this second-year squad in Seattle. Came down to the game against the Lightning earlier this weekend. They lost 4-1. They've lost 2 now. They lost to the Oilers again last night, but Kraken still remaining strong, 26-14-4 on the season. It's 56 points, second in the Pacific Division, 4th in the Western Conference.
Yeah, the boys are rolling. Look, 8-2 in their last 10, right? It's always nice to, granted, you would have liked one of those losses to at least maybe be an overtime loss where you get the point there, but they're playing really, really good hockey right now. 56 points, like you said, the 3rd best goal differential in the West right now. Only behind the top 2 in the Central Division, which is the Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets. So
there you go.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, yeah, that's it. Sorry. Double check, triple check myself.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. third best goal differential for them. And like I said, for the last few weeks, they're outplaying the Kings. The Kings. And now we actually are sitting above the Kings in this division. And it feels better because we knew they were outplaying the whole time. They weren't the better team. And now we're in a situation where that's being represented. So good for the Kraken, good for the boys. Keep rolling, keep pucking out.
Yeah, absolutely. Mitch, got a quick NASCAR update for the folks before we get to the campus tour.
That's right. We got a quick update because Dallen, the first event of the year, the new NASCAR season, is just a few weeks away. We are going back to the LA Coliseum for the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum, Sunday, February 5th. Make sure you tune into that. It is good old-fashioned short track racing in a Coliseum setting. Last year was an absolute banger. They went all out for it, and rightfully so. This is a sport that needed a new crop of fans into it, and they really played into that and brought in a new crop of fans. Ice Cube was like their halftime show right before the main event, right? This year they got Wiz Khalifa coming in, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great night of short track racing. I encourage you, even if you're not necessarily a race fan, tune in. I'm sure you'll like it. It's beating, it's banging, it's trading paint. The entertainment's great. It's a ton of fun. So the first event coming up February 5th, that's a Sunday. Make sure you tune in on that. I know that's also the same night as the Pro Bowl games. So kind of a tough maybe a little bit of a scheduling conflict. But
I was immediately like, no, it's not. But then I remembered you said Pro Bowl games because it's not just, they've mixed it up. It's flag football. So I might actually be interested in watching that this year.
That's right. So there's definitely a little bit of a conflict. I know I'm going to have to find the gaps in the race to go watch the Pro Bowl because I'm not missing this event. It's a can't miss, must watch type of event. So I encourage race fans and non-race fans to go check it out. Busch Clash at the Coliseum.
Love it. Yeah, I loved this event last year. Thought it was super cool for NASCAR to do, and they're bringing it back for another season. Love that. So I think it's a good way to start off the year for them in LA. So I love to see it. Mitch, we're going to jump over to the campus tour. A few things here in the campus tour today. Start with not significant news, but it thought worthwhile to bring up here, and that is the reports that Jim Harbaugh will be returning to Michigan. Won't be taking an NFL job. There were rumors, and we talked about him and the connections with Denver and then Carolina and maybe Indianapolis, but it is seemingly he is set to return to Michigan and is happy there for now, and we'll do this all again a year from now. There'll be more head coaching jobs, and we'll talk about Jim Harbaugh for all of those, and then we'll see if he ever takes one. But this is just the yearly tradition, I guess, at this point.
Kind of where I thought he might end up anyway. I mean, it seemed pretty unlikely he was going to leave Michigan. And you know what? Honestly, I think he made the right decision going back to Michigan and maybe running it back and trying it one more time. If he, maybe if he doesn't get it, maybe he just take that NFL job, and get. I don't know if they're going to pay him as much as Michigan will, but you got to think the numbers are similar, and getting a job in the NFL again it seems like the right place for Jim Harbaugh to go. So glad he's back in Michigan. I think it's a right move for him. And I think kind of what we all expected to happen.
Yeah. I think he's rightfully taking his time to find the perfect job, and he should, because he's got a great position right now at Michigan and they're winning. And so he has no reason to leave. And I think he's smart to explore his options every year and do the meeting and hear the pitch and see what they got. But ultimately, he can afford to be patient, right? And maybe next year that perfect fit, lines up. This year, it didn't really seem like there was one. So I'm not really surprised, as you said, that he ends up back at Michigan. Transfer portal update, not much of an update. No real big news in the transfer portal. A couple backup quarterbacks transferring here and there, high level prospects that coming out of high school, but not big name college guys. So not much to update there with the transfer portal. I do want to update the NFL draft order because with the playoffs ending, we have an update to the NFL draft order. First 18 teams were set after the regular season ended, but now we have an update to the order. So I will go from there from 19 on. Lions picking at number 18 there to wrap up the non-playoff teams. It'll follow at number 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At number 20, the Seattle Seahawks. At number 21, the Los Angeles Chargers. Number 22, the Baltimore Ravens. And at number 23, the Minnesota Vikings. If you're counting, that's only 5 teams. That is because Miami forfeited their first round pick this year. If you don't remember this news from before the season, or maybe you didn't hear it, Miami does not have a first round pick this year or a third round pick next year due to an investigation finding issues with the integrity of the game with the owner of the Dolphins, Stephen Ross, who reportedly contacted Sean Payton and Tom Brady while they were playing last season to set up the potential of all of them coming to Miami for this season, the 2022 NFL season. Obviously, that didn't play out. He was contacting current employees of other teams, and that's where the issue lies. And so they lose their first round pick for Miami. So bummer there. So there will be only 31 picks in the first round. But that's the update there. Some intriguing teams there. I think Tampa Bay and that quarterback situation, they're in an interesting spot in the mid rounds there, Mitch, as far as quarterback in this draft goes. So depending on what happens with Tom Brady and his future, could they look at the quarterback of the future there in the first round? I think they could. That could certainly be a possibility.
Yeah, they absolutely should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this draft order? Any of these specific teams? Nothing too crazy.
No. Nothing too crazy. I mean, I'm glad you updated on us, or reiterated what, Miami lost their pick for, because to be honest with you, I totally forgot. And then I had to relook it up. So I'm glad you mentioned it there. So I totally forgot about the tampering scheme. So,
Yeah, there you go. All right. We'll wrap up the campus tour here with the player to know before the NFL draft, as we have done throughout the season. Give you a player that you should be paying attention to before the NFL draft in April. Last time in this segment, we talked about quarterback CJ Stroud out of Ohio State, who did declare. We had the deadline for underclassmen to declare on Monday night, Mitch. And we didn't talk about this because basically everyone expected to declare. We were waiting on Quentin Johnston, waiting on CJ Stroud, for the other guys. Those guys went. The only notable big names, Olu Fashanu was a guy that was on this list that obviously has returned. We've talked about that. Blake Corum, the running back for Michigan, will be returning for another year. That's pretty significant news for college football. Jared Verse is another draft prospect out of Florida State who's decided to return for another year there with the Seminoles. But other than that, pretty much everyone expected to be in this class right now. And the player that we're going to focus on this week is a secondary player I'm very excited about. I feel like one of the later risers in this draft in the last couple of weeks, and that's Brian Branch, the safety out of Alabama. One of your guys, Mitch, I felt like you would enjoy this one this week. Got to get a Crimson Tide.
Roll Tide!
But yeah, Brian Branch, the safety, 6 foot 193, is listed number 14 for the Crimson Tide. And you know what he's the top safety in this class, Mitch. He's the top safety in this class by most metrics, and by most, he's pretty far ahead. Some people have him and the Texas A&M safety Antonio Johnson a little bit closer, but Brian Branch is safety 1 in this class. In fact, PFF updated their big board, and not only is he their safety 1, but he is number 10 on all of their prospects. On their big board, he is the number 10 prospect at safety. And that caught my eye. I've had my eye on Branch for a minute, but to see them rate him so high, I thought was very interesting. So I kind of dug into him, and that's what leads to him on the list here today. Mitch, why I'm excited about Brian Branch is because I got excited about a player last year for a lot of these same reasons. And he's one of my favorite players in that last draft class. He's actually a guy we talked about on the podcast last week. But Brian Branch is going to have a Jalen Petrie-like impact on the NFL as a rookie next year. That's the guy. That is the fit. That is the guy. And let me talk you through this here. So Brian Branch, 6 foot 193, playing safety for Alabama. Jalen Petrie at Baylor, 5'11", 198, right around that same range. And when we talked about Petrie last year, so the thought was, yeah, he's a safety, but he does everything. He lines up at nickel. He lines up in the box. He lines up at D-line. You look at Petrie's stats, 600 snaps at the slot corner, 122 in the box. As the box safety, 153 at D-line, right? So more versatile, but definitely more of a slot player at college. Brian Branch this year, Mitch, for the Alabama Crimson Tide, 569 snaps at slot corner, 136 in the box, only 25 at free safety. So he's not a free safety type. He is a around the line of scrimmage, make plays type of player. Very similar to what we saw from Jalen Petrie. You want that type of athlete around the ball, making plays, which is what Brian Branch does. But what I find interesting at the next level, Mitch, is that Jalen Petrie hasn't just remained to be that box slot player in the NFL. No. In fact, he is adapted. Houston has changed him into a free safety. Early in the season, Petrie's snaps were about split between the box and the free safety position. He was still playing some slot corner here and there, but mainly, about half in the box, half at free safety. But second half of the season, he's playing 80% of his snaps at that free safety, back safety position and playing it at a high level because he's that type of athlete. Brian Branch is that same type of guy. So if Petrie can find this transition to the NFL, second round pick with Houston, right? Like 40s, I think he was the pick. So top half of the second round. But if he can find that sort of versatility and a role in the NFL, having not played basically any free safety in college. I mean, Petrie had 14 snaps at Baylor in that free safety position, and this year he probably had 300 snaps. And Brian Branch is the same situation, only 25, but he's the type of athlete that can make that transition. He showed the ability to make plays around the line of scrimmage, and that's why I like him. I think he's in the secondary. That type of versatile athlete is so valuable. Kyle Hamilton's a similar athlete, but he's just 6'4" and huge, right? That's like the outlier there, but because of the size, I think Branch is a first-round player. I don't know if he goes in the first round because I thought Petrie was a first-round player, but he falls into the second round because when you're kind of that, good at everything, not great at one thing, how valuable are you to the NFL? So we may see Branch fall a bit, but I think he is a first round talent through and through. There's a reason why PFF has him as a top 10 player. He is the highest graded safety as far as making tackles. He basically does it. He's the most sure tackled safety PFF's ever graded. That's the kind of guy I want on my football field. So that's player to know before the NFL draft this week. It is Brian Branch, the safety from Alabama.
I love Brian Branch. Clearly, roll damn Tide. But also to your point about the size, because for a safety, like 193, that's a decent build for a safety. It's not great, but it's decent. And we saw this trend a lot at the linebacker position, right? Patrick Queen comes to mind. A little bit undersized linebacker. Isaiah Simmons, who has put weight on since he came out of college, but was an undersized linebacker when he came out of college, could kind of play that DB type of role. We're seeing that now more in the defensive back position. And Brian Branch, to me, though he's a safety at Alabama, to exactly what you just pointed out, screams nickelback. Mm-hmm. Like he's got to be playing that nickel role, that kind of if you're playing a team where you need to match speed for speed on the field, and you're not trying to outpower them, you need to match with speed. Brian Branch would be a great addition to that defense because, like you said, the most sure tackler of any of the defensive backs right now. So Brian Branch is a very hybrid type defensive back that I think is going to have a big impact on wherever he goes. I don't think it really matters where he goes. He's going to have an impact on that defense.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what I loved about Petrie last year was that versatility. You could throw him in any defense and he'll find a role and he'll do it really well. And I believe that about Brian Branch. I very much believe he'll be a fit for any team that needs somebody in the secondary, needs a playmaker, needs a sure tackler, and he's that guy. So in a safety class that's not very strong, we might not see one go in the first round. If there is one, I think it'll be Brian Branch. So there you go. That's going to do it for the campus tour. So we're going to take a break. We'll take a quick 2-minute break. We'll hit our mid-roll. And then on the other side, we're going to draft our top 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time. And then we'll get into our NFL Divisional Round preview. So a lot of fun on the back half of the podcast. So stick around and we'll be right back. We appreciate you wherever you're listening, but if you haven't already, we recommend you check us out and give us a listen on Anchor.
Anchor allows us to provide the best product to you. You can go support the Sports Hour and become a permanent part of the show, like my saint of a mother, Sammy, and my father, David, did.
You can even leave us voice messages with your thoughts and opinions that we can use on the show. Prove to us that you know better than me and Mitch-Mo.
Moral of the story, people, be more like Sammy and David. Go find us at anchor.fm/the Sports Hour, guys, and become a part of the conversation. What the hell are you waiting for? Sports Hour podcast. You heard the word in that mid-roll there. Go to anchor.fm/the Sports Hour, guys. Be more like Sammy and David. Go check out the anchor at anchor.fm/the Sports Hour, guys. Become a permanent part of the conversation. Dallen, as we get into our second half, we're going to get into the divisional round here in just a little bit, but we're going to have some fun first before we get to the business. And we got a thought-provoking draft ahead of us.
I hope so. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Mitch and I are going to go back and forth and draft our top 5 of, what did you say? Not the greatest, but the best quarterbacks of all time.
Well, greatness could play a factor into it, but there are more than just greatness is just one of the factors, I think.
Yes. Listen, this is a subjective list, full stop. All right. Obviously, like, numbers play into this, but Mitch and I are going to make these selections based on who we like and who we view as great. That's going to be part of the fun. So we will want to hear your thoughts on this. So if you see anything egregious on this list, if you're just like, I don't know what they're thinking or how they missed this guy, let us know. If you're watching live on YouTube or Twitter, let us know in the comments. If you're listening to the podcast afterwards, let us know on Anchor or on our socials what you thought. But that's the draft today. We'll go back and forth. Mitch, who's going to start this week?
Look, I went first last week, I believe, right?
I do think you did go first.
Okay. So I think you should go first. And then that will even it out, and then we could start flipping every time. We could start flipping a coin every time.
Okay.
But for the last time, we'll alternate, and then you could draft first here. So.
Oh, that was the sound. Do you like that? I got to play a little louder. I had to make sure I had it. Okay.
Do
I don't like that you made. Well, I'll do it when I'm ready. I have this pick, but I'm gonna just take a little time. I don't like that you made me go first. I don't. I know what you. See. I don't like what you've done here. I don't like what you've done here. I see what you're doing, and I don't appreciate it.
Let's go.
But nonetheless, I got to make a pick here, Mitch, and I know what I'm doing. So we need the sound. And with the first overall pick in our best quarterbacks of all time list, Mitch, I'm going to go with Joe Montana.
Oh,
I'm going with Joe Montana, Mitch, because you know what? I just don't want to take Tom Brady. And I know he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I know he's the GOAT. I'm not denying that. That's not what this is about. But I have to draft my 5 quarterbacks of all time. Who says I have to take Tom Brady 101? Who says either of us have to take him in the first round? We can take whatever order we want. So I'm saying, you know what? If I had to have one quarterback, Mitch, all time, one guy, who do I want? I think I want Joe Montana. I think that's the guy I want. So I'm rolling him 101.
You know what? I got to respect that. Wow, I think you're dropping some jaws there with your 101, but I appreciate the pick. I'm going to go into my pick down.
You did say we're going to make people mad. You said that at the top, so
sure.
We got to deliver.
Sure. Well, now you've just taken your handcuffs up and slapped them right back on me because now I have no choice. So well played on your part. But I think you brought up a very good point. If you got one guy, who are you going to put the ball, like whose hands are you going to put the ball in, right?
Yep.
So with my 101, I'm going to select
I know. I missed the
select.
sound. I'm ready for it now.
I'm glad you switched his name on our notes that we're sharing right now, because it was going to be Tim Brady, but yeah, I got to take Tom Brady here. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Joe Montana wasn't, Joe Montana's not there. Tom Brady's still there. And that's an easy pick. That's like Michael Jordan. That's like the Michael Jordan draft, right? Sam Bowie got taken ahead of him, and I forget who the other guy was. Hakeem Olajuwon maybe. And now you got to take Michael Jordan. I got to take Tom Brady here. So
fair enough.
Tom Brady, clear enough. But also to kind of build upon your point of, I got one guy to put the ball in their hands. Who do I want? I'm between two. I'm really between two different ones here. And I think the pick is in. I think the pick is in. With the second pick, I'm going to go with Drew Brees.
Wow.
I'm going to go with Drew Brees.
In the second round. Okay, Drew Brees.
I'm going to go with Drew Brees. I think that, and so for context's sake, it was between him and Peyton Manning. And I think when the game comes down to it, whose arm do I trust more to make that throw? I think I give the slight edge to Drew Brees. And it's exceptionally close. Like exceptionally close. But I am going to take Brees here with my second pick. And I know I'm going to lose out on Peyton, and that's fine. But I think in the long haul, I'm going to be happy with taking Drew Brees here with the 201, I guess.
Yeah. Listen, I think history is going to smile very fondly on Drew Brees, better than we view him right now. A guy who never won an MVP, so that certainly doesn't help his case, but he's second all time in passing yards behind just Tom Brady. He had the most proficient passing, most passing yards in a season until Patrick Mahomes broke that record this year with an extra game. He is one of the most prolific passers in NFL history, full stop. You want to say era, want to say whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, he was that guy. Now, greatness, again, can be measured in different ways. I love that that's how you're measuring this greatness. And I mean, deserves to be in these top 10s, I think. So I love it.
100%. Like, if he wasn't going to go to, he was going to go somewhere in someone's break. He was going to go somewhere. So, and I didn't want to lose that opportunity on this turn that you're going to have with two straight picks and lose out on Drew Brees. So I'm going to take
Fair enough. Brees. Okay. Yeah. All right. Mitch takes Drew Brees with his second pick. Now my turn for my second pick. This is an easy one. I'll just hit the sound here.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, you were between two guys. I will take the other. I will take Peyton Manning. Honestly, Mitch, I did debate Peyton Manning at the 101. I really did. I love Peyton. I think Peyton is really,
me too.
One of the greatest. And, third in passing yards. We talked about passing yards. Third in passing yards all time behind Brady and Brees. So, statistically, one of those guys is going to be way up there in the career stat numbers. He's third all time in passing touchdowns as well behind Brees and Brady. So statistically, a guy that's up there, but a winner, Super Bowl winner twice, MVP multiple times. I mean, he's one of the best, one of the greatest, best of the Manning brothers. There's no doubt it had to be Peyton.
Yeah, I mean, and this was what gave Peyton the slight edge over Brees for me when I was debating between the two. Probably the highest football IQ we've ever seen in the game, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was his own offensive coordinator for the majority of his career. I mean, this guy just saw things that most other people didn't, and which makes him one of the great offensive minds, great football minds of all time. I'm fully confident Peyton Manning could go be a defensive coordinator somewhere because that's how well he understands defenses, looking at it from an offensive perspective. Like, love just a beautiful a beautiful football mind.
Yeah, love that. All right, Mitch, I've got back-to-back picks here, and honestly, oh man, I've got the second pick here, and I'm kind of in a bind because I know you're going to have two, so it's going to be a minute before I get back to me. I'm debating between a number of guys here. Who do I think you're going to take? I gotta go with my gut here. Pick is in. And with my third pick, I am picking Dan Marino.
Okay.
I'll go Dan Marino with my third pick here. And, a number of guys I debated here, but Marino, obviously Hall of Famer, 9 Pro Bowls, an MVP, very prolific passer, had a lot of records before these, modern quarterbacks sort of came about, but doesn't have the postseason success of a lot of his contemporaries. A lot of the people will compare him to here too, but one of the best passers, period, in NFL history. So when I think of quarterbacks, I just think of Dan Marino. Feels like I had to put him on this list.
Yeah, I mean, he was the first one in my recollection, at least, that was prolific in the modern sense.
Yeah.
Like Terry Bradshaw was a great passer, right? He was a prolific passer. Dan Marino was prolific in the modern sense, and he was kind of the first one to see it. Him and John Elway, because they started at the same time. So, they were kind of those first pioneers of the modern era of football. And so I have Dan Marino's a great pick.
As you stated, Marino threw for 5,000 yards in 1984.
Right.
In 1984, you know what I mean? When guys weren't throwing that much and putting up numbers like that. So, yeah, the first of what feels like this, the beginning of what this modern wave looks like for sure. All right, Mitch, that's my third pick. You've got back-to-back here, including your third pick. What are you thinking?
So many things.
I know, so many names.
It's impossible to pick between all these guys. The pick is in.
Okay.
I just mentioned him, and I would be remiss if I didn't pick another quarterback from the 1983 draft, and that would be John Elway.
Yeah.
Two-time Super Bowl champion, MVP of Super Bowl 38. He ended his career the way that every NFL player wants to, which was on top, right? He won the Super Bowl MVP, won the Super Bowl, and then retired. Like, that's the way that you want to go out. John Elway had literally a storybook ending to his career. Underrated stat, by the way. He ranks 9th amongst all quarterbacks in rushing yards for his career. Surprisingly mobile.
Yeah.
9 Pro Bowls, 3-time All-Pro honoree, MVP honors, 1987. Guys, just a fantastic career and a winner at its highest caliber. So I got to take John Elway.
I love that. That was the other guy I was really debating hard there between Marino and Elway. I was like, I got to take one of those guys here with that pick because I knew you were going to go that same direction. So yeah, I had a tough call there between those two. So good call there with Elway.
So I'm between two now.
Okay.
And it's, do I let old head Mitch get into this? Because there's two older classic players that I really want to take.
Okay.
I just don't know if one of them really belongs on this top 5 for me. And there's one that clearly does that's not in that category. So the pick is in.
Okay, pick is in.
I'm glad I talked myself through that because,
there you go.
Yeah, we're gonna go Brett Favre here. Brett Favre.
I love it.
See, and this is the guy that's like, okay, he's not the older classic guy, but he clearly belongs in this list somewhere. And I got to go with Brett Favre. The gunslinger mentality. I love it. When he retired, he was the NFL's leading passing touchdown record holder.
Right.
This guy was innovative, exciting, a 3-time NFL MVP. In fact, he won it in 3 consecutive years. He's a Super Bowl champion. Was in back-to-back Super Bowls. As a matter of fact, 31 and 32. Finally won one of those in 31. Won the NFL MVP from 95 to 97. It's just, he might be the most exciting quarterback we've had as far as arm talent goes and his ingenuity and the way he's able to innovate the quarterback position with his arm, he might be one of the most exciting ones we've ever seen in the modern era. So I have to take Brett Favre here.
Yeah, I love that, Mitch. Man, I'm very glad you took Favre because, interestingly enough, I was looking at my next pick thinking there are two guys I'm debating. Both of them Green Bay Packer legends.
Oh, go ahead.
And I was going to pick whichever one was going to, because I had a feeling. I was like, Mitch is going to go
Well, I'm not taking him. You know I'm not taking that guy. I can't take that guy.
Well, you've been defending him all year. I thought maybe you would.
He's still a rat. He's still a rat.
But yeah, I was thinking Brett Favre because obviously, as you mentioned, I mean, for all the reasons he should be there. But this sets me up very well for my fourth pick. So here we go. The pick is in.
Let's take him. Just take the rat.
And with this fourth pick, I have to take Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers. I got to go Aaron Rodgers here, Mitch, because, I mean, you look at him and Favre, they both need to be here, in my opinion. They both need to be here.
Sure,
very comparable. And it's actually funny you look at them side by side. Favre, an 11-time Pro Bowler. Aaron, 10-time Pro Bowler. 3-time All-Pro for Favre. 4-time All-Pro for Aaron. Now, 3-time MVP for Favre. 4-time MVP for Aaron. They each had one Super Bowl. Like, I mean, geez, they're like almost exactly the same. And even in the all-time numbers, very similar. Passing yards, Favre is fourth with 71,000. Aaron Rodgers, 59,000. So he's got some time and playing time to catch him there. But you look at passing touchdowns, fourth all-time, Brett Favre. Fifth all-time, Aaron Rodgers. Right behind him. So, I mean, Rodgers is one of the greatest. He has to be on this list for me. So you took Favre, I'll take Rodgers, and that's fine with me. Yeah, you didn't want to take the Rat King.
I didn't want to take the Rat King at all. And I will defend him based off his talent and his contributions to that team. I will always stand by that, but I will not select him for any team because he's the Rat King. So I get it.
Fair enough. I understand. I won't make you. That's the best thing about these lists. We get to take the guys we want. And speaking of that, Mitch, with this final pick of mine, the fifth and final selection, I am debating between a couple guys that I just simply want. I don't know if they quote unquote warrant being in the top 10 or, I don't like, could you debate them out of it? Could you convince me some other guys maybe should be in here? Sure. But there's a couple guys I just want to get in here in the top 5. So for my final pick, I think I got it. We'll go. Pick is in. And I'm going to go with a great quarterback from a bygone era. I'm going to go Steve Young, Mitch. I got to go former BYU Cougar. I'll go Steve Young as my fifth pick here. 2-time MVP, 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time Super Bowl champ, Hall of Famer. What he did with his legs and the ability to improvise. I mean, you talked about Brett Favre and a lot of improvisation and the gunslinger mentality, and we see in that so much in the NFL. And I think in a large way, a lot of what we saw from Steve Young in the early 90s is a lot of what we see in the NFL today for that reason, because he was playing at such a high level. And Steve didn't have the long career of a lot of these guys, but his peak and his era of dominance, that 4 or 5 year stretch, was some of the best that we've seen at that position in the NFL, period. So for that reason, he is one of the greats, and I loved him. He's one of my favorites. So I'll throw him in here.
Yeah, I like that Steve Young pick. I really do. Like you said, not the long career that everyone thought he had. A lot of people forget that he spent his first 2 years of professional football in the USFL. Yeah. So and then he was backing up in Tampa Bay before he went to San Francisco. Before he went to San Francisco. So though his peak may have been shorter than a lot of these greats, his peak was exceptionally high, and he was dynamic and very deserving of being in the top 10. I would put him as a top 10 quarterback of all time in my book. I would. He'd probably be 9 or 10, but he would definitely be there. Absolutely.
Final pick.
Look, I'm going to get my old head Mitch is coming in. I got to get my old head pick in here. Pick is in. And I knew you weren't going to take him, so that's why I feel totally comfortable waiting until the last pick here. I'm going Johnny Unitas.
I love it.
They have to get Johnny Unitas in here. Look, a 4-time NFL MVP, 3-time NFL champion, and also has the Super Bowl. So technically 4 times was an NFL champion, won in Super Bowl 5, 10 Pro Bowls, a career that spanned 18 seasons. Look, he was the Tom Brady of his time. And I think that I'm a history guy. I love history, and I think it's disrespectful to not acknowledge the humble beginnings, the roots, the foundation of which the NFL was built upon. And though the NFL spanned, 33 years before Johnny Unitas even put on a jersey, it's important to recognize those old players and their contributions to the game. Johnny Unitas was that first superstar quarterback. And I have to give it up to Johnny Unitas. His Colts years were fantastic. I think he had a couple years in San Diego that may not have been as fantastic, but he revolutionized the quarterback position. Him and Raymond Berry were an absolute dynamic combination. Him and John Mackey, I think he threw to in that era as well. Just a fantastic career for Johnny Unitas. And for me, until we see multiple other quarterbacks come through the league, will always be a top 10 quarterback in my mind. And so for him going number 10 right here just feels right to me. So I'm going Johnny U.
I love it, Mitch. Honestly, a guy who made my short list. He was a guy I was considering, and like you said, I wasn't going to take him because ultimately they're just a bunch of other guys I just would rather have, but certainly somebody who had to be considered especially when you look at the history of the NFL and some of those quarterbacks, like Sammy Baugh was another name that I did write down.
Sammy Baugh,
a foundational piece. Like you just can't compare him to quarterbacks today because he's just a different player, playing a different position, practically, but important to the genesis of that position and the history of the NFL. Absolutely. That's the top 10s. Before we run through it one more time, I do want to ask you any honorable mentions or guys that now that we've run through the list that maybe you were considering would have just missed out that you would have thought about here.
Yeah. I was considering Otto Graham.
Okay.
Another old head pick there. I believe he was in 9 NFL championships in his 10 years in the career.
Yeah.
In his 10-year career, won 3 of them. Otto Graham was definitely consideration. Fran Tarkenton was another one. The list could go on and on. Bart Starr was another one. Ben Roethlisberger came into mind. Roger Staubach. Like we said multiple times during this draft, the list is endless. And you just have to pick your guys when you come to this kind of draft style format, when we come into a top 5 situation. So.
100%. Yeah, I mentioned Boz, one of mine, and Staubach, Aikman, and Bradshaw were 2 names I wrote down as, names that should be sort of thought of in this exercise. Kurt Warner, a name that I threw on that list. One name that I honestly wanted to take, Mitch, but I'll wait a little bit. I'll just wait a little bit. Maybe after this season ends, we can put him on there. But Patrick Mahomes is about to win his 2nd MVP in 5 years. And so it's too early to put him on an all-time quarterback great list. But when you win 2 MVPs in your first 5 seasons, and if he wins another Super Bowl this year, we're talking about a very short list of people who have accomplished that in even any period of time, let alone the first 5 years of your career. So I didn't do it because I wasn't going to do it all, but I did write him down and I did think about it because he is really off to an incredible start to his career.
He really is. He really, really is. But like you said, way too early. I actually just recently rewatched Stephen A. Smith's doing his top 5 quarterbacks of all time. And Patrick Mahomes was number 4 on that list. And my jaw dropped. And I'm like, wow, how can you make that call now? You just can't. It's too early. We've seen plenty of guys have peaks and then just absolutely fall off the cliff. How could you put him in your top 5 all time right now? I just don't get it.
Crazy.
I don't get
fascinating. It. Mitch, let's run through our lists one more time for the folks. I'll start here. Here's our top 5, our picks for the best quarterbacks of all time. From 1 to 5 for me, I had Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, and Steve Young.
And so for my top 5, I had Tom Brady, Drew Brees, John Elway, Brett Favre, and Johnny Unitas.
Love it. A little diversity in our picks, a mix of things. You love to see it. Let us know, folks, who had the better list, perhaps. If you're watching live on Twitter or YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know whose list you think is the strongest. If you think we missed anybody egregious, or you think we're crazy for putting somebody on our list, also, let us know in the comments if you have any thoughts there. Mitch,
Absolutely.
We've got to move to the final part of the podcast today, our NFL Divisional Round preview. Great wildcard weekend, and we've got to get into the Divisional Round. So I'm going to throw the music in there behind us. Quick fix.
Oh, yeah.
We love the music. Gotta have it. I'll even bump it up just a bit. But Divisional Round, let's start with Saturday. 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. That's the schedule this weekend in the NFL. We start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're leaving the swamps of Jacksonville, and they're headed to a place, Mitch, which I know that you've heard. They've got some pretty good barbecue out there.
They got some great barbecue out there.
There's a pretty good barbecue out there in Kansas City. That's so we've heard. Jags and Chiefs, 4 seed Jacksonville, number 1 seed Kansas City. Chiefs looking to get back to the Super Bowl. Jags looking to pull off a miraculous playoff run. Kansas City's favored in this game, Mitch, minus 8.5. Pretty big line for Kansas City. Over under is 53. We'll make picks like we did last week. We'll pick a winner. We'll talk about the line, over under. We'll discuss all those in here. When you look at this matchup, though, Mitch, what do you think is the biggest key in this game?
There's a lot of big keys in this game. I think it's that Kansas City does not play down to their competition. I think you have to know that you're a better team than Jacksonville. Do not give them the opportunity. You saw what happened last week when Los Angeles gave them the opportunity to stay in that game. And what happened? Jacksonville makes it to the divisional round. The Chargers do not. I think the biggest key for Kansas City, do not let Jacksonville hang around, because it has been shown now they will come back and bite you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. I think one of the things that was very evident to me coming out of the wild card weekend was the importance of quarterback play in the playoffs. It becomes so evident at this time of year how important it is to have not just good quarterback play, but elite quarterback play, and what a difference that can make getting through this playoff slog. And this week, and especially in the AFC, incredible quarterback matchups. But you've got Patrick Mahomes, former MVP, already Super Bowl champ, going to win another MVP likely this year, against Trevor Lawrence, making his second playoff start. And he had a great bounce back last week, but this will be a whole different environment, Mitch. He's not at home. He's not at the greatest tailgate party ever out there at Jacksonville. He's in a hostile environment at Arrowhead with a crowd that knows the playoffs and knows big level football. And how can he as a quarterback handle that situation as opposed to Patrick Mahomes, who has shown us this whole season control, absolute control over his game, this team, this offense, everything. That's the key to me. Can Lawrence match Mahomes on that level? Can he rise to that occasion? We will see. He's certainly talented, but very young. It will be a test.
It will be a very serious test. Very serious test.
Okay, the pick, Mitch. Kansas City's favored minus 8.5. Again, over under is set at 53 points. Who are you going in this game?
Well, I'll be sitting in Mahomes watching this game. And I got some good juju about this one. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to be kicking myself in the butker. Give me Kansas City minus 8.5. I'm going to take the under on this one. I think it's going to be a 2-score game that winds up under 53. Give me Kansas City minus 8.5 and the under 53.
I love you. How long have you been working on that one? That was good. You really brought it. You had me there.
That was about minute 30 seconds of just looking through names. So
okay.
More to come. More to come, my friend.
Way to flex on the people. Mitch is like, what do you mean time, bro? That just came to me. I'm a god with this. Incredible. Mitch, I'm going to roll with Kansas City on this one. Obviously, the Chiefs are just a juggernaut. They will not cover, though. I'm going to say no cover for Kansas City. Jacksonville is going to keep this a close game, and I will take the over, actually. I'm going to say over 53 points. It'll be a high-scoring affair, but Kansas City will hold on to win this one in advance to yet another AFC Championship game. That leads us to our Saturday night matchup, Mitch, an NFC East matchup. Number 6 seed New York Giants headed to the Link, taking on number 1 Philly. 14-3 Eagles hosting the Giants. Third matchup this year between these division rivals. Philly favored in this game, minus 7.5. Over-under set at 48 points, Mitch. We talked about the Giants already in our wild card recap. Impressive win against Minnesota. This offense is showing out. This Philly team, though, a whole different matchup. What's your key for Philly in this game? We haven't seen them in the playoffs as they had the bye. What's going to be the key to Philly coming out strong and winning this one?
Do not overuse Jalen Hurts. Protect the quarterback moving forward. The quarterback that just had injury issues. You know you're better than the Giants. You can go out and beat the Giants. That's fine. Don't overrun him. We saw the Ravens do that with Lamar Jackson just a couple of years ago, where he accounted for yards on like 80, it was like 75 plays that the team ran, and it came back to bite him in the butt the very next week. Don't overuse Jalen Hurts. Use him smart. Use your noggin. I know Nick Sirianni and that coaching staff is going to game plan around that. Use Jalen Hurts effectively, but not overly use Jalen Hurts. I think that's the key here. Establish the run game early and let your receivers eat on the deep routes. I think that's really going to be effective for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I love that, Mitch. And, I think when you look at the Giants, it's just it's tough when you're entering that third matchup with a team who's had your number this year. And the Giants lost both those matchups with Philly. Week 14, they lost at home 48-22. In that Week 18 game just a few weeks ago, they lost 22-16. Now, that was like Giants weren't even playing starters. That's, you can kind of throw that Week 18 game out the window. But this Eagles team has been the dominant team in the division. Can the Giants rise to the occasion here yet again? We shall see. So we'll make our picks here. Again, Philly minus 7.5, over under 48. I am going to roll with the Eagles. Eagles fly. I'm rolling with Philly, Mitch, and I am going to say they cover. I will take the minus 7.5 for Philly. Close one. Maybe like an 8-point win, like they barely get it. But I'm going to say they cover. And I will take the over. 48's a really good line. That's making me think. But I'm going to go slightly over, like they get to 50 maybe. 27-24 kind of game. But I'll go over.
I like that number of 48. It's a good number to take on the points there. I would, whatever the number is for team total first half for Philadelphia, I think that's what I would like to take. But for the sake of these picks, I've been jonesing for a divisional rivalry matchup. I've been jonesing, and I think it's going to be a good Galladay when we watch this game. A good NFC matchup, but I have to tell you that at the end of the day, after I make this pick, it's going to hurt so good. Give me Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles minus 7.5, and I will take the over with you, my friend.
Okay.
And you know what? I'll look up whatever the number is here, but I do also want to put down first half team total for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that they can hit that. Giants probably make some adjustments in the second half, make it a little bit closer. But
okay.
I think the Eagles come out swinging in the first half and get that thing done.
Yeah, good call there. All right, Mitch, Sunday football, and this is matchup of the week, I think, in my opinion. The second of the AFC matchups, number 3, Cincinnati at number 2, Buffalo, a rematch of a game that basically didn't happen. That tragic Monday night game just a few weeks ago in which Damar Hamlin went down with that injury and what has happened since. And here these two teams are less than a month later facing off in the playoffs in the divisional round. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. I mean, the stars are out, and it'll be a fun one, Mitch. Buffalo favored in this -5.5. Over-under set at 48 points. If you had to stake a claim, I just named 4 superstars, and there's more in this game. What superstar comes out and has the best game on Sunday? Who rises to the occasion here in the divisional round?
Oh, God, it's tough. It's tough to pick. I mean, there's so many big names here. Look for Tre'Davious White to have 2 picks.
Ooh, yeah.
I like Tre'Davious White to make some big defensive plays here. In fact, it seems very black and white to me that Tre'Davious White has a big game and not in the inverse. I like Tre'Davious White to have the big game, get 2 picks off Joe Burrow, make him very uncomfortable throwing the football.
Yeah, I feel like you were chasing that one a little bit, Mitch, but that's okay. Listen,
it's okay.
We're just trying to, mix in a little bit here, if you will. Mitch, I love this. Man, this is a tough pick. I'm going to tell you that straight up. This is a tough pick for me. I'm going to let you go first here. I'll let you make the pick first. I need a second. You go ahead.
All right. Okay, don't burrow your head in the sand here because this is going to be a fantastic game. And it's going to be a fantastic game. This is the game that we should have gotten on Monday night before the tragedy with Damar Hamlin, right? This was that premier matchup. We're going to get it. I hope Damar Hamlin is healthy enough to be in the building for this one because what an electric atmosphere would be. Oh my gosh, what an atmosphere that would be. But if there is a Singletary thing that could take away from this, it's that I'm Diggsing the Buffalo Bills in this one. Give me the Bills, -5.5. Give me the over in this one. High scoring affair. I like the Bills at home. Team of destiny. Go get it done. You could say the Super Bowl is knocking on their door.
Keep it coming. Love it.
Baby. Yeah.
Mitch, oh man, I said I'm struggling with this. I'm going with the Bengals. I'm going with Joe Burrow, the Tiger King. Man, I just think this Bengals team is just underrated and we're just kind of sleeping on them. And I think they're going to surprise some folks on Sunday. I think they're going to pull off this win and we're going to ask ourselves, why didn't we see it coming? Why didn't we see them back in the AFC Championship game? I just have a feeling about this Bengals team, and I want to believe in Buffalo so bad. I was with you before the season. We both picked Buffalo to win the Super Bowl, but I am pivoting here.
Wow.
And I'm going to go Cincinnati.
You rode that long, and now you're pivoting?
You
rode that long, and you're pivoting.
I have a feeling Cincinnati's going to win this game. I'll take the over with you as well. 48 is a low line for these high-powered offenses. Like, I know the defenses are also talented, but these are, they're capable of putting some points up in this game. So I don't know about that 48 line there, but I will roll with Cincinnati. I got a feeling. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like it.
Got a feeling. All right, Mitch, final game, Sunday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys, 12-5. They're leaving the Lone Star State, and they're headed to the city by the bay, Santa Clara. Because, technically, that is where they'll be
technically
headed.
Santa Clara. Yeah, it sure is. Yeah.
To take on the San Francisco 49ers, 13-4, Mitch. This is a classic matchup of classic franchises. A Dallas team that's playing really well, a Niners team that's playing really well. Niners favored in this one at home, -4. Over-under is set at 46 points. This is, we talked about this Niners team. We talked about this Dallas team. Is it going to come crashing down at a certain point, Mitch? Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. He was 5-0 as a starter. He looks fantastic in his first playoff game. Like, when does it end? Could this be the week that we see the wheels fall off for Brock Purdy?
I really don't think so. I actually very seriously doubt that. I know I've been talking about wanting to Brock all night and Purdy all day, but man, this is a performance like we've never seen, other than maybe Nick Foles in a backup role coming in and stepping in like this. Brock Purdy is real. He's real. This Niners team is real. I think the key to this game, though, is not on the offensive side of the ball. I think DeMeco Ryans is going to have to put together the best game plan of his entire career to hold off the Dallas Cowboys. And I have the confidence in DeMeco Ryans that he is going to do it. This is a brilliant football mind, a brilliant mind in general, but a brilliant football mind. And he is going to get this thing done and game plan accordingly for the Dallas Cowboys and have the best game planning of his career.
Yeah, we talked about this Niners team at length earlier in the podcast and just how much talent there is. And I mean, you're gonna believe in that talent full stop. But I have a thought, Mitch, of
you
what
have to get over it.
What happens when it's 31-28 and the Niners are down and it's 2-minute drill time and Purdy's in the game and it's like, all right, kid, game's on the line. It's on you. The talent is all out there, but you need that kid to take the snap and get the ball out. Can he do it? We haven't seen it. No. And that worries me with this Niners team because we have seen it from these veteran players. Dak has like 18 game-winning drives since 2016, most in the NFL during that span. So I trust Dak Prescott to go get it done. Can we trust Brock Purdy? We don't know yet, but that's my one worry. Like, the talent on this team doesn't worry me. The coaching on that team doesn't worry me. But if the game's on the line and Brock Purdy has to make the play, can he do it? That'll be the question. That's the question.
See, and I get that out of my mind completely because I don't think Brock Purdy will be in that situation. I think the defense will absolutely hold this. So I'll make my pick here.
Okay.
Give me San Francisco to win the game. I don't think they cover. I'm taking the under.
Okay.
So San Francisco to win, but Dallas, I guess, technically 4+4 because San Francisco doesn't cover, but I really think this could be a 2023 game, a 2017 game. I really can see that situation happening in this because this is going to be a slugfest. They're going to beat the hell out of each other for 60 minutes, and it's going to be awesome to watch.
Yeah. Oh, man. This is really tough for me, Mitch. Like, I'm going to roll with the Niners in this one. I'm right there with you. I'm going to say Niners. I'm not going to say they cover because I think this will be a tight game. And I'm going to take the under because I think they win this one on the back of the defense. And I don't think, and if this happens, this is fine. Because if Purdy doesn't look great and they win, that's all I need to see. That's all I need to see to, like, get over it is just that, like, because even last week, I mean, the second half wasn't even close. This kid's rolling because everything's easy. What happens when it's not easy, Mitch? What happens when it's hard, when you need him to make those plays in key moments? Is he good enough to do it? We just don't know that yet. But I'm going to trust in the talent. I'm going to trust against Mike McCarthy in the playoffs here. And I will say
probably rightfully
Niners,
so.
And I say we get Niners-Eagles in the NFC Championship game next week, which would be just an absolute treat. So I'm gonna say I'll go with you there. I
love it.
There you go. Great stuff. That's our picks for the divisional round. So we're pretty much on the same page on all these. Both picked the Niners. We both picked Philly. We both picked Kansas City. The only thing we differ on, Cincinnati and Buffalo. I got the Bengals, and you got the Bills.
Yep. And I got the under in Kansas City, I guess. But
yes, fantastic weekend ahead of football, Mitch. Fantastic weekend ahead. 4 great games on Saturday and Sunday, and can't wait to break it all down with you next week here on the podcast.
Can't wait, buddy. This is going to be an awesome week of football. Awesome.
Yes, cannot wait. That is going to do it for the podcast today, folks. So we appreciate you hanging around, as you always do. If you've been watching live on YouTube or Twitter, we appreciate you tuning in. why don't we do this on Wednesday night? If you're listening to the podcast later on, thanks for catching up and being a part of this. If you don't already, you'll want to check out the social media pages. We've got quite a bit, but you'll want to follow us on TikTok. That is at the Sports Hour Guys. The Instagram is also at the Sports Hour Guys. The YouTube channel, if you're watching on YouTube, you already know, but if you want to check us out on our live stream, it's youtube.com/the Sports Hour Guys. You can also follow the Twitter at Sports Hour Guys. That's how you can catch the live stream there. Mitch, let's remind the people about Anchor.
Anchor is the only way that you become a permanent part of the conversation. We talked about it right after the mid-roll. Get on anchor.fm/the Sports Hour Guys. Become a permanent part of the conversation. Be more like Sammy and David, folks. Come on, let's get this rolling. Let's go. You go on anchor.fm/the Sports Hour Guys. Leave us a voice message. We'll play it live right here. Like, you'll be on YouTube. You're YouTube famous now. You'll be on YouTube because we are playing your message right here live on the show. We'd love to hear from you. You can get this podcast if you're listening to it in the podcast form anywhere that you get your podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Get on Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating review. Tell us that we suck because, Dallen, that's the only way that we can get better.
Oh, man, it is the only way that we could get better. Check out the website as well if you haven't already, thesportshourguys.wordpress.com. I have my top 10 mock draft that we talked about on the podcast last week. That is up on the website, so you can read the breakdown a little more in-depth there. So any of the written content, you can find that there again, thesportshourguys.wordpress.com. Mitch.
That's right.
Here we are. Here it is.
156.
156 in the books. You got a beautiful Montreal Expos hat on today for the folks.
Yeah,
looking good.
I wasn't feeling too spicy. I got some minor league hats that I got on the wish list that we'll check off pretty soon.
Nice. Well, the Expos is a classic, and I had to put on
throwback.
A different hoodie because I've worn the same hoodie for the last couple of weeks. So our entire TikTok feed is me in the same sweatshirt. So I was like, I need to wear a different shirt when we record, or
it's not the same show.
Yeah, it's like all these TikToks, you'd be like, this guy only wears this one hoodie. What is this? I
You
wear other
dirty
clothes.
Son of a gun. You never wash your clothes?
Yeah, I guess so. Or I just like that hoodie on Wednesdays. I don't know what it is, but there you go. So, man, too much fun. But we should wrap this up here. So we'll do so. It's a pleasure as always to be here with you guys. We love doing this. So love going live, listening to the podcast. We appreciate it. Until next time, we love you. We appreciate you. And we'll catch you next week.
So long, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening wherever you may be. See ya.